Our next speaker is Camilla Rees, MBA. She's a researcher, health educator, and expert on the biologic and health effects of RFR. She's founder of electromagnetic.org, Campaign for Radiation-Free Schools, Manhattan Neighbors for Safer Telecommunications, and co-founder of the International EMF Alliance, Oslo. Welcome, Camilla.
There is a wireless elephant in the room, and when we talk about the wireless elephant, we're talking about the radiation that's emitted from, not only the tower that you see in the picture, but from the Wi-Fi router in schools and from all the devices that are connected. This is actually how we need to be thinking about this invisible stressor, this invisible energy force. It's really moving, and it's disrupting the natural harmony that we have in our bodies. The safety guidelines today that the manufacturers have to comply with are based on a false premise, and this is the crux of the issue. The false premise is that harm can only occur if this radiation is hot enough to heat the tissue, like the baked potato in the microwave oven. However, there are thousands of studies showing biological effects at non-heating levels of exposure. Here's an analysis done by a physician who saw psychological changes at 50 times less than the current exposure guidelines, DNA damage 600 times less, cardiac effects at 10,000 times less, enhanced cell proliferation 76,000 times less. Point is that the guidelines are completely inadequate and need to be changed. We've done several programs on the electromagnetic effects on children. Well, definitely effects in utero, and cognitive function, attention, memory, perception, learning capacity, energy levels, emotions, poor sleep, DNA mutations, social skills, reaction time, motor function, distraction, hyperactivity, inability to focus on long-term tasks, fatigue, impaired fertility, and autism. And so, if this was a food that you were giving to your child, we're just completely ignoring this wireless elephant in the room. This is what's called a dosimetry graph. It measures the radiation, not just in a static moment in time, but every half a second averages. The body is responding to those peaks and pulsing. Actual exposures in school with Wi-Fi are well above the recommended levels. Wi-Fi routers in school, you need to know, are industrial strength routers designed to penetrate through cement to handle hundreds of users. And Wi-Fi routers in schools also keep getting stronger, and the technology changes. People say, well, what do we do? We all have Wi-Fi at schools. We got to have Wi-Fi, but it's actually not the case. This is a company in Sausalito, California, Octawired, that's designed many scenarios for how you can hardwire a classroom. Now, in terms of cell phones and brain tumors, the bad news is that children and small adults absorb far more radiation. This was one study that showed risk of brain tumors from cell phones to children, 680% increased risks of brain cancer from cell phones on the side of the head where the cell phone use began as a teenager or younger, and children have nearly 4 times the risk compared to adults. There are also fertility effects on children from the radiation. This was from a study done by 12 institutes in 7 countries in Europe called the Reflex Report, and it just graphically shows the impact on the DNA. The question is this technology actually helping the educational goals that the schools have for children? This study was done by MIT researchers at West Point, and they showed that the results from our randomized experiment suggest that computer devices have a substantial negative effect on academic performance. We are cooperating with a deliberately destructive technology. Here is what the American Academy of Environmental Medicine says about Wi-Fi in schools. Adverse health effects from wireless radio frequency fields, such as learning disabilities, altered immune responses, and headaches, clearly exist and are well documented in the scientific literature. Safer technology, such as the use of hardwiring, is strongly recommended in schools. Thank you.